Welcome to Ignite Your Destiny online show. I am Jamie Marie, host of the show, and I am so excited to welcome Amanda Berlin with us.
Hi,
Hello,
Jamie.
Amanda.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so excited to have connected with you and to have to know you. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. I'm so glad to know you as well.
Thank you. Can you share with the ladies a little bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll start off with what I do and who I am. So, what I do is I help solopreneurs, mostly women, write their web copy, tell their story, and spread their message in the media. I'm a former New York City publicity strategist who I think, and I like to say, I'm now using my powers for good instead of nefarious purposes. I spent about 12 years in the corporate world, really entrenched in electronic publicity, where I would help my clients create a story that would position them perfectly to speak to the audience that needed to hear from them so that they could get television and radio coverage in particular. And as I was doing that, it may not be surprising to learn that my soul started to feel like it was slowly dying because I was working in the corporate setting where the culture just really didn't agree with me. Yeah, so I'm sure that there are tons of people out there watching this that can identify with that. And so as my dissatisfaction in my corporate career, my work life in general, increased, so did my devotion to self-improvement, self-help, anything to help me get out of feeling the way that I felt. So I really got into coaching as a client on the client side, and I worked with Gabby Bernstein when she first started her coaching practice in the East Village in New York, and I worked with another teacher who I love named Patricia Moreno, who founded a fitness modality that paired spoken affirmations with exercise, and it just was this amazing new energy that came into my life in the realm of just focusing on feeling better and changing the internal conversation. And so I kind of became really devoted to all of that work and felt like that was what I really wanted to do in my next phase. I wanted to get out of corporate and go into coaching or fitness or something like that. And so, needless to say, I ultimately got let go from my corporate job. As the fates would have it, that company was going out of business and they drastically were downsizing. And I said to myself, I'm not going to get another job just like the one that I left that I hated. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. And at the time, and still, I was the breadwinner for our family. So it was really incumbent upon me to figure it out. And fortunately, at that moment, it was 2012, and it was just my husband at the time and myself. So I didn't have as much responsibility as I have now, because now I have a daughter who's 4, but it took me that whole first year to figure out what I was going to do with my business. And the interesting thing was that it took, and I think that this may be something that's heartening for people who are pursuing their passion and following what they believe is their purpose, their destiny, that it took me a lot of tries to find the thing that I was going to do. So like I said, I took a life coaching certification that really was almost a year-long program, and it was an amazing experience. So I wanted to try life coaching. I took a fitness certification and I wanted to do fitness instruction. But then I kind of realized that two things. None of that was lighting me up the way that I had hoped it would, which was disappointing and kind of devastating, because I was like, well, now what? I thought I loved this. And the other part was then that I got pregnant in 2013. So I really needed to find the thing.
Right.
And so reluctantly, almost reluctantly, because I, in the back of my mind, was thinking, I don't want to do anything to do with what I was doing in the corporate world. I don't want to have anything to do with that communications work. I reluctantly sought out an organization that I really believed in and asked if they needed someone like me, someone with this communications background. And they did. I knew that they did, but they asked me for a proposal. And again, with this like begrudging attitude, I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm just doing this because my husband isn't making enough money and I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And I guess I have to like go back to this work that I don't want to be doing. And I filled out, as I was filling out that proposal, it was this major light bulb moment for me where I realized that that thing that I had been doing in the corporate world was actually the thing that I was uniquely talented in doing. I was really good at figuring out what stories we could tell about the organization or now about my clients that really makes them relatable and inspires passion and makes people want to work with you. So
Yeah.
that's what I transformed my own business around. So so that's what I do now. I help organizations, but mostly solopreneurs in the health and wellness space, figure out what uniquely positions them to be doing what they're doing, how they can differentiate themselves through their personal and professional experience, the things that they've done throughout their lives before they've come to this work, and then how to communicate that to the right audiences and how to get opportunities to speak, to be interviewed, to be featured out in the media.
Right. And that's so amazing that I remember telling you, like, it's so funny how we can leave one certain thing that we hate and then we end up doing the same thing. But I know you agree, like it's built into us, and our life stories can also, and experiences can also lead us to, our destinies as well. So
absolutely.
I love that you shared that you were in that corporate position and you were feeling stuck, because I think that's so important. We might have a lot of ladies joining us that are in those corporate positions and they're just crying at night because they're so miserable.
Yep. Crying in the cubicle. That's what I always.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I love that you can bring that to the table because it's so important and so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are known for cutting through the clutter in our heads and helping us identify what makes that person unique about them in their own space. Can you share more about that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are a lot of us out there that are doing things that are seemingly similar. And our job really is to identify what about our approach or what about us as humans is different than the people out there that are doing something that may be similar to what we're doing. And the real core of that is in your story. It's in your personal experience. It's in your professional experience, because that's what's different. That's what's unique about you. And the way that I like to, and this may be like an actionable takeaway from this conversation, or one of the ones that we'll get to, the way that I like my clients to begin to start to frame that story is very simple. Think about where you were before you found the work that you're doing today. What was that catalyzing moment that opened your mind and opened your eyes to what was possible and inspired you to make a change? And then how did the work that you did during that time translate into what you're offering today, and what did it do for you to change your life? So you can see how it's that story arc. It's a 3-act narrative. It's totally a classic, a classic plot structure, but we can really utilize that in creating our own stories.
Yes. And I love that. And that's one thing I really help with the people that I work with. I take them backwards. you know, and I'm sure that's
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's what you're saying as well, but really to dig in deep and identify those pivotal moments in life
Yes.
that have built them to the place that they are today.
Yeah.
So
And that's really what also the other point about storytelling is that it's what connects us. It's a physiological connection that we have when we listen to someone telling a story, and it's an emotional connection that we have. And it's also a like a vestigial connection. Like we have this innate need to share stories. And the other part of it, the chemical connection, is that there is actually a study that found that the synapses in the brain of the storyteller and the listener begin to fire. They mirror each other as they are interacting. So there is that like chemical connection, that scientific connection, and then of course the emotional connection. I have always believed that when we have the courage to share our stories, no matter how difficult or painful it may be, that it gives the other person the opportunity to recognize that they're not alone in experiencing something similar. So it's an act of courage on our part to share the story, but it's also an act of generosity.
And I love it. I love too, let me just say that you're a brain girl because I love the brain science. That is so exciting to hear. I was like, fist pump.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I do. I mean, that is so true. And I know those stories sometimes are difficult for people to really share. You know, I know women, we tend to feel the society is going to judge us. I just had a conversation with a lady a few days ago that she was struggling with some anxiety and depression, and she was just so ashamed to share. You know, and so it really takes that courage, but in that vulnerability, I feel, and I know you agree, we can really make that connection where we need to. So
yeah, absolutely.
And I love that you called it, did you say the story of art story? How did you word that?
Story arc?
So there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I loved it. Okay. So what secrets then would you share with the women about putting themselves out there so they can get found and be heard?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So one of the secrets that I would share is a mindset trick to help you really get out there in a confident manner. So one of the things that, so on top of helping my clients structure their story angle, so like finding the right story to share with the right entity, then comes this mindset piece of like, okay, now that I have all of this, I actually have to reach out and and like put myself out there. And the one thing that I really want you to remember when you're venturing out there to book a podcast interview or pitch a guest post or even contribute maybe something to your local magazine, which is something that people often overlook. You have lots of local media in your area, just a side note. One of the things that I always want you to remember is that you are doing the decision maker a major service by offering them an excellent idea, by being a contributor of substance and of quality, and by reaching out and giving them something wonderful to give to their audience. So that's how I always want you to kind of frame your outreach, because in your own mind, because we do get caught up in the like, oh, no one cares what I have to say, or I'm not big enough to pitch such and such, or this idea, like they're just gonna laugh when they open this email, like this is ridiculous. I want you to remember that they may get lots of ideas from lots of different people every single day, but if you're pitching correctly by pitching an idea that is tailored to that particular entity, then you're getting an A+. You're going to get an A+, and you will be doing them a service by giving them excellent content to bring to their audience. And that's their entire job. You're helping them do their job.
Right. And if that makes any of the ladies watching, if that makes them nervous, an analogy with that, that I would build off of that is just dip your toes in slowly. If you're a little
Yes.
nervous, and just kind of gradually get used to that warm water, cold water.
Yes.
And I think that that's so important, is to have that confidence in themselves and their story and their message, their project, and really
Yep.
be able to garnish that within their local community. And I agree with you. Like, that's an area that a lot of people forget about because it's such an online world.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm sure.
Yeah, and what you're describing really is the way that I start my work with every new client is what are your low-hanging fruit opportunities? What are these natural opportunities either with local community that you already know or just the easy gets in the media, whether it's a podcast interview or a guest blog. Like, let's start building some confidence by just checking those off the list.
Right. Yes. And I completely agree. So why do you feel that the media is so important then in connecting to who we need? Like, where do we find those connecting pieces?
Yeah. So I think media is so important because like you said, we live in an online world right now. We are bombarded with Facebook ads, with Google targeting, with these. I have a friend, a very dear friend who used to work for Google, and she explained it to me in this way that I thought was so interesting. So Google actually owns property on all these different websites. So they may own property on like the Target website where Google places ads for other companies. And that's why those ads follow you around everywhere, because Google has all of your information on what you've searched for, and then they place those targeted ads on their other websites. So anyway, the point is that advertising is another way that companies get in front of you that isn't earned media the way that I'm describing it in terms of public relations. It's advertising where you pay for the opportunity. So we're bombarded with ads. Our attention spans are shorter than ever, but we're still searching for solutions. So your media opportunities are your opportunity to get out there in front of your audience with solutions for the problems that they're searching for, without placing an ad, which we are blind to at this point. So you are getting out there and you are earning the opportunity to contribute to these media outlets to which you've pitched yourself. And the reason why that's so powerful is because, number one, someone gives you permission to appear or to be interviewed. So you, again, here comes that word, earned. You have earned that opportunity, and everyone who sees that knows that. They know that you didn't buy that ad space.
Yeah.
You earned that because whoever makes the decision believed that you had something valuable to contribute. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you're leveraging an existing audience. So when you pitch yourself to your favorite podcast, or you pitch a guest blog, or you place an article in Bon Appetit magazine, you are utilizing the audience that media outlet has painstakingly cultivated over months, years, decades, in order to get in front of new people. Plus, that audience trusts that media outlet, and therefore they trust you because that media outlet gave you permission to reach out to their audience. So that's why I think media is so powerful, especially now when we're bombarded with advertising and messages from all directions.
And you're right with that. And what would you say, though, to the woman that says, okay, well, I know you're telling me media, and I want to do it, and I'm excited, but what's my story?
Mm-hmm,
so,
mm-hmm.
And I know we talked on that a little bit, but I know that's your heart. And so I want you to share, I know we're kind of backing up a little bit, but I want you to share that.
Yeah, no, this is good. So here's kind of like a Cliff Notes approach to becoming media ready. There are two stories to start with when you're pitching the media. you're either going to pitch a journey story. So like, what has been your personal and professional journey, like that story arc that I was describing in the beginning, or you're going to be pitching a how-to. So going back to like your most basic starter kit of tools and tips, and figure out how to present a some kind of like tutorial type article. And that would probably be more, well, it doesn't necessarily have to, I was going to say it'd probably be more for a guest blogging opportunity, but there is all types of media that you could fit probably one or other of those two different kinds of stories into.
And I think really, I mean, a how-to is a really good stepping point, you know, and you can build upon that and create your message. And I know that everybody's always tweaking their message as they get started in fulfilling their purpose. You know, that life journey is ultimately, though, like you said, it's going to come back around and you'll be doing your passion, even if you're trying to get away from it and run from it. So
yeah. And look, we all have tons of stories and tons of insight and tons of personal experience to share. So those two story angles that I described here, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Especially online, you can find opportunities to place personal essays. You could find opportunities to place even the most nuanced or like seemingly detailed like one little tip that you love from your practice. So it's never too early to start with media, and there's never a bad idea.
Yeah. We have a gal here locally that she started just like that, and now she has and I don't know the right media term, but she has a weekly publicity thing that she does within her newspaper.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you know, was she planning on that? Absolutely not. You know, but did it turn into that? Yes. And that was just something that she was able to get started with, just a simple little, here's a little blurb about my story, you know. So
wow.
You never know what it can turn into.
She has like a column.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, got it.
Ask me about a Facebook ad, I can tell you that, but newspaper, I don't know. Oh goodness. So how can they get past that? It doesn't, like for myself, I know that I don't get really worried about that or intimidated by that, but I know some people, and I should say that's because my dad was in radio, so I grew up in that world.
Oh, cool.
But how can they get past that increased, you know, just that fear of, I'm going to be so visible and what are people going to do and say?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and I put myself out there, and I do interviews, and I write material. And I have to say, I can't even remember the last negative comment that I received. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, and, you know, you'll never get trolled, but I have to say that in this space of personal development and following your dream, people are overwhelmingly supportive. So that's the first thing. The other thing is going back to what I had said earlier. Remember that you are being of service. You are being of service to the content creator by offering them a great piece of content, and you're being of service to the audience by offering something for free that will improve the way they experience their day, their life, whatever. The other part of it is that this is essential work. If you are building a business, if you are a generous human, let's just even backtrack to that. If you are a human who believes that you have something to give to a community of people who may be in pain, it's worth your fear or a little bit of discomfort around putting yourself out there and being visible to give that gift to that audience. And that's what you're here for. You're here to share this realization or this information or this skill or this talent that you have. What's the point of being here if you're not going to be willing to share it? So So that's why I say it's essential, because your people out there who need you, they deserve to hear from you. I think we would all agree, like, yeah, we're here to serve people who are doing good work out there. They need what we have, and we need to support them in doing whatever it is that they're doing. So that's number one. And the second thing is that there's no other reason to be in business if you're not going to share your business out there. Otherwise, it's a hobby.
Right? Yes. And I really think that's important, because we can't sit in our office and expect it to take off. We really have to get visible and, and be seen and be heard.
Yeah.
We have that unique voice. I know so many women that are like, well, there's so many people that do it. Well, but they're not you, and they don't have your story.
Exactly.
So, no, there's not. How many personal trainers are there out in the world? And that market is not saturated. You know, so I think it's important to bring that to the table.
Mm-hmm. There's enough out there for all of us. There are enough clients, there are enough contacts, and our clients are looking for the right person for them. They're looking for the person that they personally resonate with.
Yes. Yeah. I just had somebody, I didn't even know had been watching me and sought me out. To help her build her business. So you never know. You just have to be confident, be you, be visible, and really just use what you have inside of you. And it'll all take, I don't know, it all just falls together. So, So what would you say?
And you also feel, when you use your story and your unique gifts, and you do start to get visible, and you realize, like, oh, wait, people appreciate this about me. It's so gratifying. It's a huge, just like a nod from the universe that, like, you're on the right path.
Yeah. I like, with my call, I was like, you want to do what? Cause I would expect that from people that I interact with regularly, but to have somebody that was a complete stranger I'd never talked to was just such a humbling experience, and it just touched me in a way that was so deep. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just what you're saying. It's just humbling.
Yeah.
So I think that I think that getting visible is definitely important, and having that confidence in your journey and in your story is so powerful.
Yeah. I would also say, you don't have to wait until you feel confident or until you feel like you've got it all together. You will help someone just by being brave enough to put it out there.
Absolutely. Because really, let's be real. Do we moms ever feel like we have it all together? Like waiting to afford a baby. Are you ever going to really be able to afford a baby? So take that step and leap into that. Definitely. So, okay. So let's talk about you. Tell me more about your heart and your passion, and how you really, like, your story of how you fell into what you're doing now. I know you shared a little bit, but I think
So, I'll just finish out that kind of timeline where I was pregnant, and I had to figure out, because I was responsible for all of us. I had to figure out exactly what was going to bring in the income. And so I went back to communications, and I had that epiphany moment of, oh, wait, this is something that I'm really good at. And actually, not everyone is good at this. This comes really easily to me. And this is something that not a lot of people are talking about in my online entrepreneurial world. And so maybe this is my thing. And so I dove in, and I started out creating materials and content for people to write their web content. So that's where I started. And then I realized that in order to get my work out there, I needed to be visible. And so before that, I had not utilized my pitching savvy in any way to get myself out there. Actually, it's not entirely true. I had done some article writing. I wrote an article for a magazine. I was writing for Forbes.com back in like probably the mid 2000s or so, like really early on in my career. But I hadn't really been exercising that like publicity muscle on behalf of my own business. And around 2014, I heard two of my friends kind of back to back, two of my business friends in New York who were on Entrepreneur on Fire. And I was like, maybe I should be on Entrepreneur on Fire. And so I reached out to a friend of mine and I was like, I just heard Tracy Matthews and Selena Soo on Entrepreneur on Fire. And my friend said to me, pitch yourself. And I was like, oh, I can't. I'm not big enough. He would never say yes to me and whatever. So that old story. And so I told her that I would. It took, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, it took the accountability from a trusted friend who I knew was virtually standing over my shoulder to get me to write the pitch and send it in. And I got a response the next day that said, let's book it. Yeah, you're in. And so that was really another kind of pivotal moment for me where I realized that the pitching aspect was really fun for me to teach other people how to do that. And it works. My method works.
Yeah.
So
if you got a response the next day.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that was another, really pivotal moment. And then fast forward to the next pivotal moment, which was, in March of last year, which was 2017, I kind of held my breath and made a really big investment in working with a business coach named Dawn Copeland, who I absolutely love and who really understood for me how important it was to deal with my internal, the inner game of entrepreneurism and the business strategy game. And making that investment in myself and my business, as I'm sure you can attest to, was a game changer. Even energetically, something happens in your business when you make an investment in it that kind of sends a signal out there to the universe and to whomever is, feeling that ripple effect that you are serious. Yeah. You are all in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard that before, but I didn't really comprehend it.
Yeah. And so another thing that did for me was it gave me an outside set of eyes, fresh perspective, and community, which is so, so important.
Yes, it's very important because I know you agree, really the only people that kind of understand the high and low of entrepreneurialism are other people that are in that industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get to walk into a job and then leave. They don't have to work. I mean, they may still have it, but it's just different. So I think the community aspect is so important as well. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I'll also add that, and I did share this with you as well. My husband and I separated shortly after I made that big move in my business. And so with so many variables in the last year, it's been so interesting to see the freedom that I feel and how that also has had a ripple effect in my business. And obviously it's not an easy thing to make that decision. And it was very, painful on many levels and difficult on many levels, but it was something that my soul knew I had to do. Right. And because I hadn't done it to date, I felt like I was carrying around this incredible weight because I wasn't living in alignment. And so once I gave in, I don't know if that's the right term for myself, it doesn't totally feel right. But once I, kind of did what I knew my soul needed me to do, I felt a tremendous forward flush of movement.
Yes, I firmly believe you have to weed your garden.
Right.
There's going to be toxic things that come into your soil and your foundation. And I think that you absolutely have to weed that garden on a constant basis. So yeah. I know what you're saying. And I also commend you for sharing that as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And it was always really important for me to, it was important for me for people to know about me, that just because I was married, it didn't mean that I had a fallback, like, oh, you have a husband, so you can have your own business.
Right.
I'm sure that there are circumstances like that. I don't know why I would assume that people would think that. But I'm happy to say that I feel free from that story, whatever that story was that I was telling myself, that it was important for me to be seen as someone who created a business that supports herself and her daughter.
Yes. And I think that's so, and it's possible.
Right. Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't think that it is possible. And I know exactly what you're saying. And it's funny because I can't put it into words either. I do understand why you think that people might think that about having the fallback, but I can't put it into words either.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes the stories that we tell ourselves make no sense.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. So if anybody wants to find your work or find you and connect, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, I love to connect, first of all. I'm very free with advice and perspective and ideas. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You can find me, a great place to find me is in my free online Facebook group called Pitch School Free Content and Publicity Strategy group, I think.
We can put links below.
Yeah, Pitch School. The URL is facebook.com/group/create content that connects. Okay. But I also am giving away a free gift for you guys. Jamie invited me to offer something, and what I put together was a guide that gives you complete access to all of my templates for pitching every different kind of media, different story angles for what works in each kind of media, how to connect with the right people, and how to write that pitch with that template. Oh, and examples of pitches that have worked for every type of media. So it's a really high value guide, and you guys get it for free. The value of it is $59. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a compilation of all of my paid for guides.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So if you download it, let me know, because I want to know what you think and how you've utilized it and what success you've had with it, hopefully, so that, we can celebrate whatever placement you may have secured by using my resources.
That is
bringing amazing. My resources to bear for you. And the URL for that is amandaberlin.com/gift.
Okay. Awesome. And thank you. That's exciting. And we'll put the links down below. And ladies, you don't have an excuse now. You have to get visible and get over that fear.
Yes. Yeah. And don't start small. Don't stress about it. Just, I'd say the best way to think about it is just to remember that the person on the other end of that email is another human, and they are looking for connection just like you are.
Yes, especially in today's society. We crave that connection because we're always on social media. So absolutely, I completely agree with that. Well, I am so thankful that you joined us. It was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
And do you have anything else? I guess I should ask, do you have anything else before we go that you want to share? Or?
No, I just want to empower everyone listening to remember that you have something important to say and that there are people out there who need you. So it's your responsibility to get out there and raise your voice so that they can find you.
Yes, I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank
And
you.
Jamie, I also want to thank you too for doing this work and for bringing us all together for these kind of conversations and holding space for everyone who wants to pursue their passion.
Oh, I appreciate it so
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Well, we will conclude, and we have now ignited you to get out of that fear and increase your visibility, be seen, be heard, and reach for that destiny. So we will catch you on the next episode.
Yay.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.